I am here with Nate today. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us about the current career and job that he's working at.
So Nate Globitz here, Director of Operations at ETS Northeast Metro. So what I do here is basically run all the administrative business side of things, and then as well as all of our social media, and then I do all the training for every athlete that we have coming through the door. So I'm a little bit of jack of all trades of everything here, and then I also am in charge of all of our hiring and HR stuff at the facility too as well. So yeah, that's kind of the roundabout of what
Yeah,
I do as far as daily basis goes. So
perfect. How did your, not necessarily even career path, but maybe college path lead you to finding an opportunity like this? So we have exercise science majors and sport management majors, and some think, physical therapy school or chiropractic school or sports admin or strength and conditioning coach. So what did your path look like?
yeah, so I started in the business realm of things actually. So it was up until I took my first accounting class and economic class that I knew this wasn't for me. So then from there, I went into the health and wellness management field that my mom was currently in. And then I transferred from River Falls, UW River Falls, to Northwestern St. Paul, and then got into the kinesiology department. And then from there, I kind of knew it was going to be something in the fitness realm of things, just didn't know how it was going to play out. It turned out that I was in contact with somebody that was a part of ETS for 3 or 4 years prior, and we kind of stayed in touch. And he had a position open for me as I graduated that same month. So from December of 2020, I've been with ETS, and it's kind of been a wrap since then. So it's just, you never know how things are going to shake out. You just kind of got to trust the process, so to speak, and know that if you're really in something that you love to do, something's going to shake out for you. There's going to be a path for you. So,
Right.
um, yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. What would you say, so performance coaching or like you said, day-to-day ops and some of the HR and behind the scenes stuff as well that you take a look at, how would you say that a job like yours might differ than maybe somebody who's working for a nonprofit in a community, or maybe they're working at a college or they're working at a high school? How might that look a little different for your day-to-day work?
Yeah, hours. One thing, hours are not going to be the 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 hours. That's the first thing that kind of you realize, right, when you go through the internship process and that sort of thing. We're open only, I mean, because our primary people we work with are 8 to 18 year olds, and during the fall, winter, and spring, they're in school most of the time. So we can only have a set time with them, right? Anytime, anywhere from 3 to 8 is kind of the prime time, so to speak. So the hours definitely differ more than maybe so a nonprofit or a regular job, so to speak, would. And then, I get the privilege to, do everything, right? So I some privilege and a curse sometimes, but everything kind of falls on you, and you're kind of the wheel to the facility. So, you got to make sure every day you bring your A game, and if something, if you need a day off, or if something comes about, you got to make sure that that's covered with your staff and all that different kind of stuff. So it's kind of a one-man show, but especially starting out. But as you grow, as you get more staff, it gets a little bit easier. So yeah, as far as the hours would be kind of the main thing that
Hmm. Hmm.
is what people don't understand right away until you're in the position. So um, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is important for people to know, whether they want to become a personal trainer or a strength and conditioning coach or anything. You really have to be able to have those quote unquote dream hours. You really have to make a name for yourself, and that's not going to happen right away. So it's going to be the 5 a.m. to 8 a.m.s, and then you're going to have a split shift and you're going to be back later. And really, with a job like this, you don't get paid if you don't train, right? Or you don't get paid if you don't have clients. So you
Yep.
definitely, there needs to be some internal fire to making that happen, and realizing that
Yeah.
you need to bring the energy to have that energy reflected back to you.
Yeah. Absolutely. You get what you put into it, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're just gonna go by day, not doing any energy, just going through, like kids aren't gonna want to come back. You're not gonna get anybody, spreading the word for you out in the community, if the kids aren't really enjoying it. So it's really up to you every time you're at a session or in a session to bring that energy, so to speak, to make this an environment that kids want to come to, kind of a little scapegoat for what they got going on outside of the doors.
Yeah. Yep. And speaking of kids, you work primarily with youth. So how do you think that looks different than either working with, a traditional adult population or older adults or college athletes or pro athletes? How do you view that differently, or what might that look like differently compared to a
Attention to
different
detail
population?
is going to be the big one. Attention to detail. So the younger they are, the more attention that you might have to give, not so much in the training itself, but around the surroundings, right? So we have a speed plus class, or 8 to 11 year olds that train sometimes twice a week, and we have another session going on with strength. So we got to make sure that the kids are locked in and aren't roaming around and running into people who are actually working out. So I would say attention to detail in that sense, but then also with the high school kids. That some are motivated to be here, some maybe not so much. So the next thing is going to be making sure that each session they're motivated and trying to improve themselves. And they write down all their weights on the sheets we print out for them, so I can see, each week, are they going up? Are they staying the same? Do I have to get on somebody about pushing themselves, and that sort of thing? So whereas college and pro athletes, I've worked with both college and I've been around the pro sector too as well. That's not really an issue, right? They're playing college sports. They want to be there to get better. They understand why they need to be there to get better. And you don't have to necessarily motivate as much, just as much as just creating a atmosphere where it's an enjoyable atmosphere for the college and pro athletes. So I would say attention to detail for those older kids that are just starting off training, making sure that foundation is set. Younger kids, just more of the attention to their surroundings, I should say. Making sure that kids are safe, but also getting something out of being here too as well.
Totally, totally. That's a good point. Speaking of being able to kind of command the room and keep everybody safe and guide them where you need to, how much autonomy do you feel you have? So you do work for a corporation that has different locations or different branches. You don't own your own business as of yet anyway,
Right,
but
right.
do you feel like you have autonomy to make decisions? Are there decisions coming from above you that you're implementing? How do you feel that plays
So
into your role?
the great part about ETS is we get our own kind of, like, the expectation is set of what we're looking for as far as people who to run a location, and the trust is there, right? So the trust is there, like, how you want to run your facility and get members, as long as you're doing it in the umbrella of what ETS stands for. They kind of let you um, do what you think is going to be best for your facility. Now, at the end of the day, they incentivize us to do well at our facility. So the more obviously athletes we get, the more we can bring on more help to help the business grow a little bit too as well. So that's kind of from that standpoint, right? You don't want to just have 20, 30 members. You want to have more athletes, right? So that's kind of like my mission and goal, is to provide this service to as many athletes as possible in the first place. So it just kind of clicked right away when I started with ETS as an intern. But yeah, I got a little bit more freedom than maybe somebody would if they were maybe in a different program, so to speak.
Yep, totally, totally. And do you feel like you thrive on that? Do you enjoy having the autonomy to make decisions? Because then the repercussions are yours as well, right?
Yeah,
Like you have to own
right.
your decisions.
No, absolutely. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. Like, we all have like sheets that we follow as far as progressions and stuff, but I enjoy the puzzle piece of, some athletes are built a little bit different than others. So you got to make sure that you're making a plan that's going to best help them progress as efficiently and as safe as possible to get them towards their goals. And then, same thing with their younger group class with speed, right? We want to make sure that that environment is as fun as possible, and competitive as possible, instead of, these kids are sitting in a chair all day long. And the last thing I want them to do is kind of come in and listen to me speak the whole time, right? So we're going to, do things like just expose them to different body movements so that that foundation can be set. So when they do get 12, 13, 14 and start to lift, that it's a little bit less of fixing, so to speak, and that foundation's already set, so they can progress a little bit easier, and a little bit more goal-oriented training right late or earlier on in their lifting process than they would if they just hopped in at 12 or 13. So
yeah, totally. So the words you use and the language you use demonstrates that you're very familiar with weightlifting and agility training and sports specific training. Do you think it is crucial for somebody coming into this industry to have been a student athlete themselves, or is that just maybe some icing on the cake and it's more business mindset, or do you have to be an athlete to be able to be successful in an athletic space?
definitely helps. I'd say it definitely helps. Like being an athlete, whether that's all the way through high school or college, it definitely helps just because being a college athlete, you're in the weight room most of the time too, and you learn just by doing a lot of the times, and you get kind of a little more understanding. And then kids, when kids ask you what sports you play and stuff, then like, oh, you played this or you played that, and the kids you have that respect almost right away, so to speak. But at the same time, if you're a bookie and you love to learn about this type of stuff and passionate about it, I think that would outweigh anybody who's just like a athlete that is just in this field, right? You have to have the passion to, not only because this field's ever evolving, but at the same time, no one's reinventing the wheel, right? So there's different ways to get different things out of each athlete. So we want to make sure that you're passionate about continuing to learn, and you're also passionate about what you're doing, because then people can see and feed off of that if you aren't, like almost instantly, right? So
Yeah, totally. And speaking of continuing to learn, who are some people that you're following, or some key people in the industry that you think it's important to, keep an eye on or rub elbows with, or
yeah,
seek out a mentorship relationship, or what might be some ways that you continue your professional education?
yeah. So um, Jordan from Elon Performance, he's a good one. So he runs the Elon Sports Performance program over in Elon, I believe, in that's Carolina. Actually, I'm not entirely sure, but he's got a book called the 8 Vector System. So downloaded that book, and he's had great success. That's kind of who my mentor, so to speak. He was at Northwestern St. Paul, Taylor Gesh. And he left the industry, but we're still in close contacts with one another about some things. He's still passionate about it. He's one that really told me and let me know, like, it's something you got to continue to brush up on, to continue to learn. And that was same thing when I was an intern versus now. You continue to try to look at YouTube videos. You continue to try to find some different things that might be a little bit different with each athlete, right? How they strike the ground, does their foot pronate, all that different kind of stuff. So through YouTube, Les Spellman, as far as some speed training, and then Squat University has a lot of good stuff as far as he's a rehab guy who goes over a bunch of different rehab things with low back pain, squat issues, activation issues, all that different kind of stuff. So when I see it then and here, I kind of know what to address, what needs to be addressed. If someone's having back issues, what are some issues, other issues outside of it just being a back problem? Is it tight hips, hamstring, all that different kind of stuff, mobility, all that good stuff. So I just continue to try to educate as much as I can nowadays. I had a little bit more free time when I was a head performance coach. I didn't have to be in as early doing all the admin stuff. So when you have and find time, like 2-3 hours a day, to sit down and try to educate yourself as much as possible, finding people that are good, reliable sources are going to be key. So not just somebody from TikTok, but do a little bit digging, like if they're like published, what their background was, all that different kind of stuff, to make sure you're not just doing it because you saw it, right?
Yes.
so that
Thank you for saying
stuff.
that.
Mhm.
That's one thing we really stress with the students is health literacy and understanding where the science and the data are coming from. And if there isn't any data to back it up, then you can either make some yourself and maybe do some research, but yeah, make sure that you're going to have some valid, reliable sources for sure.
Absolutely.
Nate, what are some things that you have learned both personally and professionally that your years of school didn't teach you, right? So you can memorize things in a textbook and you can think you're ready to go, but then you get dropped into a situation. What are some things that you're like, nobody told me that?
Baptism by fire is definitely a big thing here. So when I first started my internship, it was during COVID, and I ended up by the time the internship was over, I ended up running one of our team sessions that we had basically all by myself. So there's definitely things as you grow that the books haven't taught you, right? You can't really be taught how to command a classroom. You can't be taught to do stuff basically on the fly, right? Some kids aren't really able to grasp something right away. Like some will, like some of the higher level athletes will, but others might not, right? So we're gonna have to adjust the program on the fly a little bit, and that's something that maybe a program might not necessarily teach you, and now it might give you the tools to do so. But it's kind of something you have to realize as you see it happening. It's like, oh, we got to switch that immediately. Like last night, I had the high school soccer team, and I had a whole program laid out, and with time and how many there were, you just kind of have to, what are some things that we need to address as a soccer player, and what are some um, things that we need to hit, right? So we just kind of redid the whole program basically on the fly to what I saw that each athlete needed and would benefit from. So I would say adjusting and learning on the fly, as well as being able to just do it, fail at it, and then fail forward, right? So even if you walk away from a session or so, especially with younger groups, they don't care as long as they have a fun time and
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh, what could I do differently that time, right? What could I do differently to make this a little bit better experience for so and so, right? So just kind of reflecting after each session of what some things that you might change. I still do that. I still do that with our youth speed class. That we went from 3 to almost 12 per session now within a month, just because the word has spread and kids have loved and enjoyed coming into it. So I would say, yeah, don't be afraid to fail would be one, and just be able to adjust on the fly and be flexible as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if they're doing something, it's better than doing nothing.
Perfect. And I love that fail forward. That's awesome. That's a great mantra for sure.
Yeah.
If let's put you in the hiring manager shoes now, which will be, say you have 3 candidates and they're all coming with a bachelor's degree in kinesiology or,
Right.
some sort of strength and conditioning certification, and they all look good on paper. What's going to make somebody stand out? What is a characteristic that somebody's needs to embody to be successful here?
Yeah, I think a big one's going to be, since you are going to be with me so much, you're going to be around kids so much, are you like able to relate? Are you being able to communicate right with these kids, right? All you guys can have, the degree, you can have, you can be an honor, all that stuff. But just being able to be relatable and communicate with these kids effectively, and also I see you kind of being like somebody like we can hang out after,
Mm-hmm.
doing a
Mm-hmm.
whole session together, like we did down in East Metro with my buddy Ozzy. Is going to be kind of the two things that would stand out to me, right? Which is also interesting because you don't know that until they're actually in that position, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, but being able to communicate is going to be a huge one. Effectively communicate. Are you teaching or are you talking, right? Are you just talking, or are the kids actually going to be able to take whatever you just told them and apply it to something they're going to do in their sport, a sport movement, or what it is that they're going to do, and then being able to relate, right? Everyone, like, kids want to come in and be able to relate with you, right? Did you catch that game on Sunday? Did what are some other things? Like a big thing that we do is, right, we go in the community and we watch our athletes play, right? So we want to make sure that they're not just a number to us, right? We have a thing called ETS fam. We want to make sure that all of our athletes, like I go to at least one of their games per year. Now some kids are on the same team, makes it a little bit easier, but we want to make sure that when we show up, that we have that effect. Like, ooh, it heightens the kids, like they want to, show out and perform for us
Yeah.
because they are kind of one of our own in here. So
Yeah. Oh, I
yeah,
love
those would be
that.
the two things: communication, relatability.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Nate, before we close, are there any other words of wisdom you would give to, so some people might be first year students watching this video, or maybe they're ready to launch into a career, sport management or exercise science wise. What's something you would tell your past self, or something that you would tell a future graduate to just consider and think about when they're thinking about a major in this health science field?
Yeah, be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. So be patient and really love what you're doing. So, because that's going to be, kids know if you love what you're doing or not, even if you think you are. Um, Being passionate, being energetic. Like when you sit down and talk to a parent, that parent's got to be comfortable with you taking basically their kid for an hour, hour and a half out of their day, and being one to, be energetic and be a positive influence for that athlete, to ultimately be better and better themselves and be a better person. So be passionate, be full energy, right? And I don't mean like be a rah rah person, like be yourself, but at the same time, being yourself, be confident in who you are, and try not to change who you are, because then the kids also know that too as well. So just continue to be yourself, trust the process, and be patient, and something will come its way.